TWA, Trans World Airlines, with one mission, yours. And by Edward Jones, more than 125 years of experience helping individuals build financial security. Indiana State and Evansville in the semifinal game. Let's take a look at our starting lineups, brought to you by Bud Light. As you look at X Stadium, the home of Tyler Field, and $7 million put into this facility. It's really an outstanding venue for this tournament. Barmas is the stud, leading things off for Indiana State. This is a group that has been effective in the tournament in the middle of the order. The final three hitters are all freshmen for Indiana State. Evansville has a few more seniors in the lineup. They've got 5 seniors total in the lineup, but they're going to go with Wes Davis to start this game on the mound. Davis, you see, started 10 times, a 6-2 record, a 3.5 ERA against Indiana State during the regular season. He went 5 1/3 in a game where he was not involved in the decision, Scott.
Shortstop, Clint Barmas.
Clint Barmas leads things off for Indiana State. Barmas hitting .374, 9 home runs, 36 RBI, and one of the top players in the country. And lifts one deep to left center to start the game. Going back to center fielder, and it's gone. Clint Barmas, the first hitter of the game. It's his 10th home run of the season, and Indiana State gives a message to start this game like they started the tournament.
Indiana State has been known as a battling, fighting team in 21 years under 25 years under Bob Warren, and they send the message early with Barmas' home run. It's the 3rd time this year he's led off the game with the home run, and for Evansville, you have to be a little concerned.
Right fielder.
The weather has really been a factor in the first 3 days here in Wichita, but in keeping the ball in the park, that was a well-hit ball, but the wind is blowing lightly out towards left center field. A fastball down the middle of the plate, and Barmas puts the Sycamores on top.
You saw the center fielder, Doug Shonacase, in decent position to try to get after it. The ball just over his head, and Indiana State leads 1-0. This now is Dustin James, and he grounds to short. Let's check our defensive setup for the Evansville Purple Aces. Again, a presentation of Bud Light. This is a very good defensive team. This team has lived off pitching and defense all season long. Serafini's at first, and he's been an outstanding pitcher the last couple of weeks. Shonacase, Broshears, and Moats all good in the outfield. And Matt Serafini, the catcher, the brother of Vince. As J.C. Baker now sets in for Indiana State, the second baseman. One out here in the first, 1-0 as Clint Barmas, the Missouri Valley Conference Newcomer of the Year, a junior college transfer, homered to start the game for Indiana State. Indiana State team, Scott, a little bit interesting. They've mentioned the freshmen that they play out there, but some seniors have had good years for them, including this kid, J.C. Baker.
The top half of their lineup is really dominated by 2- and 3-year starters. The bottom 3, as you mentioned, are all freshmen. Evansville, in contrast, has 5 seniors in this lineup today. Indiana State, though, with good experience at the top of the lineup.
Wes Davis works the outside of the plate as Baker whiffs for the second out of the top half of the first inning. As Tommy Jeffers, the designated hitter, will settle in for Bob Warren. What a career he has had. Over 1,000 coaching wins, over 900 of those at Indiana State in his 25th year. A very embracing guy. We had a great visit with him last night, Scott. He's excited about this team. It's kind of a renaissance of sorts for him because he made a lot of appearances in the postseason in the 80s.
The 80s, really, Indiana State dominated the Valley along with Wichita State. Indiana State appeared in 6 tournament title games from between 1983 and 1989. They have not been the same program in the early and mid-90s, but they appear to be back on the way.
Did win the tournament in 95 as Jeffers swings and misses. He's now down in the count, 1-2. Wes Davis, part of a very deep Evansville pitching staff.
Keep working, 30, keep working, kid.
Tap foul. Evansville, the top pitching team in the Missouri Valley Conference. And it's been a long time since Wichita State hasn't been at the head of that stack.
And that was part of the enthusiasm that Evansville brought into the year. They thought they were going to be good in pitching or on the pitching staff, and they had good experience coming back. They have a couple of newcomers as well. They throw strikes, they work quickly, and they have been the class of the Valley in terms of pitching throughout the entire spring.
Davis has had to adjust his game. He's played shortstop in this tournament prior to this pitching appearance, and prior to that he was an outfielder, with Wes Carroll being injured, the everyday shortstop for Evansville in the last regular season series of the season. Tommy Jeffers hanging tough for Indiana State. Jeffers hitting .327. Davis misses up. 1-0 Indiana State. Again, the winner of this game will play tonight against Wichita State, which has had to battle back after losing to Creighton in a Friday night game here at this stadium. Jeffers lifts one. Short left, the shortstop, Brian Wegman, goes out. And Indiana State is retired in the top half of the first, but they're on the board. Clint Varmus has done his thing again. Indiana State leads it 1-0 as we go to the home half of the first.
Hi, I'm Dave Sinclair, the South
State University at the Mountain Dew Missouri Valley Conference postseason baseball tournament. Let's take a look now at the Evansville batting order. This is a very opportunistic team. Not a lot of power in the lineup, but they are very good at moving runners around and being very efficient, and a lot of seniors. Schoencase has had a good year for Evansville. So has Broshears. The key is getting the bottom of the order involved. Moats has 3 hits. Molina hitless in the tournament. And Vince Serafini, who's been an outstanding pitcher, needs to do something in that 9-hole for Evansville. And Brian Woods will get the start here, Scott. 14th start of the season, 5-4. And he was beaten by Evansville earlier this year. He went in that game 3 innings, but lost 12-0 to the Purple Aces in the regular season.
This is a big place for a freshman to be in. He's been through his freshman year. He's made 14 starts, but nonetheless in the tournament things change, and he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders today.
Got a good defense behind him. We mentioned this is a combination of seniors and freshmen. Varmus is as good in the field as he is at the plate at shortstop, and he keys everything. Firebend, a senior at first. Zouch, Egley, and James in the outfield. Van Adder, a freshman catcher, so a freshman battery out there for Bob Warren and Indiana State. Leading off for Evansville, Ryan Connors. Connors, a senior, hitting .307, tied for the team lead with 6 home runs. Woods misses with his first 2. Evansville, a very disciplined hitting team, too. They're going to make you throw strikes, Scott.
They're going to make you throw strikes. They don't have a lot of power, and yet they are opportunistic, as you said. They're going to get on base. They lead the league in stolen bases. They like to move runners along and get people in motion and create havoc for the opposing team's defense, but they don't have a lot of power.
Woods misses his first 3. And there's a look at Jim Brownlee, the Missouri Valley Conference Coach of the Year. 21 years at the University of Evansville. And he also is walking on 4 pitches is Ryan Connors. He also senses the chance that his team has. He's not been to the NCAA tournament since Andy Bennis led him there in '88, but he knows this team can and probably should get him there.
He's come full circle with this program. He's been a coach there for 21 years. They've been affiliated with 3 different conferences. He's been a coach of the year now in each of those 3 leagues, and he feels like this team is probably his best bet since they've been in the Valley to get to postseason play and do some damage.
And here's Doug Schoencase. Takes a strike. Schoencase hitting .313, 5 homers, 44 RBI. This guy's had an outstanding tournament. 6 for 12, hitting .500. In the 3 prior tournament games the Aces have been involved in. Good speed and a tough guy to double up. Schoencase, a St. Louis native. Woods, runner moving. It's in the dirt and gets away from Van Adder, the catcher, and it's an easy stolen base for Evansville's Ryan Connors.
This is going to be a battle for Indiana State all day if Evansville can get people on base. Connors is second in the league in stolen bases. He chooses a great pitch to run on. Woods buries the curveball 5 feet in front of the plate, so Van Adder has no chance to make a play. Connors reaches second easily.
It's been a problem for Indiana State all year. 85 stolen bases in 116 attempts by Sycamore opponents. We mentioned, though, the youth of Van Etter, a freshman back there behind Woods. Lifted to short right. Tough play, and it's going to fall in for a hit. And into second base with a bloop double is Doug Shonacase and the Aces. Answering the tally for Indiana State in the top half of the first when the Sycamores picked up a solo home run, and now their first two hitters of the game are on for Evansville.
If you're an Evansville fan, you have to like how this happens. Evansville down 1-0 after the top of the first, looking to get base runners on, put people in play, and that ball lands in one of those Bermuda triangles in the outfield between the right fielder, second baseman, and first baseman. Evansville with runners at second and third.
For the left-handed hitting Phil Broshier is another senior, leading the team. Getting a hit. One out of every 3 times up there. Takes a strike from Woods. One of the reasons Evansville has been so good this year has been the top of the order, particularly in this tournament. They have 19 hits in this tournament, Scott, from their top 3 hitters.
And usually when that happens, that results in good things for your team.
Fouled back by Broshiers. As here's your situation, still nobody out here for Evansville. Runners at second and third in the bottom half of the first. A walk and a bloop double for the Purple Aces here in the first inning. The 0-2 is away. And now 1-2 to Phil Broshier.
Excuse me, Mitch. When you're coaching a team that's dominated with seniors, you like to see them be in this position. They have a chance to control their own destiny, and the guys in the top half of this lineup have responded through their first 3 games of this tournament.
Tough team to strike out. This one is foul up the left field side. The count remains 1 ball and 2 strikes. Evansville has enjoyed this underdog role all season long. It's kind of been a rallying point for Jim Brownlee since game 1.
Well, they go all the way back to the last regular season series in 1999 as kind of a focal point for what's unfurled through this throughout this spring season. Being just 1 game away from clinching second place in the regular season standings a year ago, and probably assuring themselves of an at-large bid, which didn't happen as they came in as the 4th place team in the tournament and promptly lost 2 games.
Jim Brownlee played collegiately at Illinois State, part of the College World Series team in the old college division where they won the championship. So he's been around Valley schools his collegiate life. There's one drilled up the middle. This will score 2 runs. As Evansville now has their first 3 hitters on in the game, and 2 of those score, and Evansville has a 2-1 lead. As Broshier's battles and drills one up the middle for a 2 RBI single.
Just an excellent piece of hitting by Broshiers there, fouling off several pitches that he wasn't able to handle, and that Woods was putting where he wanted to. Finally, Woods on the 2-2 count comes in with a fastball over the middle portion of the plate, and Broshiers puts Evansville up.
And here's Matt Serafini, a sophomore from the Chicago area, as a throw to first base. Broshier's only 6 stolen bases, but everybody in this Evansville lineup, I don't think Jim Brownlee's scared to hit and run with any one of these guys or try to again move runners. Serafini at 264. Pitches up from Woods. We were talking to Bob Warren last night about Woods.
Come on, what are you and Benny? Here we go.
And the importance of him keeping his breaking pitch down. You know, it looks like he's keeping the pitches down, but Evansville's gone down and picked up 2 hits down in the bottom part of the strike zone.
He hasn't had control within the strike zone yet, and that was another thing that Bob Warren mentioned as important for Brian Woods. And so far, Evansville's finding him pretty easy to hit.
Serafini lifts this one to right center field, but it's captured by Kevin Egley for the first out for Evansville in the bottom half of the first.
Designated hitter, Joe Noel.
And already the phone has been busy for Indiana State. As up and working Michael Rink for the Sycamores. And when you get to tournament play, you don't have to worry about tomorrow here, Scott. The sense of urgency is in both of these dugouts.
You don't wait around for a couple or 3 innings for your pitcher to find himself on a day like today. If he's not going to have it, if he's not going to get it done, somebody gets up in a hurry, and they're ready.
Here's the Purple Ace DH. Joe Noel takes off speed over for a strike.
Fortunately for both of these teams' coaches and their pitching staffs, both staffs are pretty well rested, so they do have people to go to in the bullpen in the event that either starter shouldn't have a good day.
Which is somewhat amazing on the Saturday of a conference tournament. Broshears back to the bag. Woods trying to work out of a jam here in the first. Noel hitting .324, DHing in this game. Has appeared in 2 games, 2 for 4 in the tournament. Pitches up. And evens the count at 1-1. 1 out runner at first for the Purple Aces. They lead 2-1 here in the bottom half of the first. Good shot at the lead by Broshears. Broshears bluffs a move. And with as much fidgeting around as Evansville does on the bags, it makes it tough for a pitcher.
Especially one who's already kind of nervous and fidgety to begin with as a freshman working in his first conference tournament game, but kind of high-strung in nature anyway. He's not settled yet, and it's just going to take a while for him to find himself, perhaps. I'm sure Indiana State and Bob Warren hope that it happens soon.
Woods, a true freshman out of Fairfield, Ohio. Indiana State's gone a little bit of everywhere to pick up its roster. But both of these teams also have several hometown kids. Woods still bothered by Broshears.
And for Evansville, this is a great hitting situation. Broshears could get started and look for the fastball. Noel's looking for a fastball in a 2-1 count. A great situation for Evansville right now.
Runner stays put. Noel drills one to deep left, and this one is gone, barely skimming over the wall. And for Joe Noel, it's just his 3rd home run of the season, a 2-run home run to the opposite field, and Evansville is a 4-run first.
Well, I think Woods is probably happy with that pitch. We'll get a chance to look at it, but it looked to be a fastball low and on the outside part of the plate. But an excellent job of hitting by Joe Noel. Again, the wind has changed direction here today, and the ball is carrying extremely well. And you'll see the left fielder is out, thinking he's going to have a play on that ball, but the ball just floats and floats and floats and gets out of the park, and Evansville has a 3-run lead.
Scott, it's an excellent point, because in Woods' defense here, Evansville has hit good pitches. They've gone down twice in the bottom part of the strike zone to get base hits, and that time Noel goes with the pitch and sends it out of the park. Bob Warren out on the mound, try to calm down his freshman right-hander. And it looks like Indiana State's going to go ahead and make a pitching change here. Let's take a look again at the home run by Joe Noel.
Again, a 2-1 count, so Noel's in a good situation. He's probably not looking for the fastball down and away where that one is, but an excellent job of staying down on the ball, kept his front shoulder in, hit the ball well, probably not well enough to get out on a regular day without the help of a little breeze, but the breeze is here today, and the ball is carrying extremely well, and Brian Woods is headed on his way to the bench as Indiana State makes the pitching change.
Brian Woods lasts 1/3 of an inning and has seen Evansville played 4 times here in the bottom half of the first. We'll return to Wichita after this. We're in the first, and Evansville leads 4-1.
The place, my friends, where toppings know no.
Team trying to get to the championship game tonight against Wichita State and giving up 4 runs, but more of getting on Woods. You really have to applaud what Evansville's done here hitting-wise in the first inning.
Connors starts the game off with the leadoff walk, so Woods puts himself in the hole from the very beginning. Aside from the ball that got out of the stadium for the home run, Woods was not hit especially hard, but again, he didn't have control down in the strike zone, within the strike zone, and the margin for error is very, very thin in a game like this, so he finds himself on the bench, and he'll be rooting his teammates on the rest of the game.
New pitcher, right-hander for Indiana State. It's Michael Rink. This is his 15th appearance. Rink, his numbers, he's 0-4 this season. 5.93 ERA. He's actually 0-4 15th appearance. He had 4 starts earlier. He's thrown 41 innings, and now he just has to find out a way to get this Evansville club out. Brian Wegman settles in for the Purple Aces. It'll be the first hitter to face Michael Rink. Rink up at the chin of Wegman, ball 1. Bob Warren told us his pitching is in great shape. He's had 5 guys that haven't thrown yet, but he was not he was not planning on his starter only going a third of an inning.
You like to have depth and you like to have a rested bullpen, but you do not plan on having to go to the bullpen in the first inning.
Rink misses twice to Wegman. Wegman hitting .265.
Rink is in his first year as a reliever at Indiana State, and he has had control troubles. He's walked 27 batters in 41 innings, so that's not a good number, and he starts off with 2 pitches out of the zone.
Nice play by the second baseman, J.C. Baker, to knock down the ball in the infield, but he cannot recover in time to get a throw. It'll be an infield base hit for Brian Wegman. It's the 4th hit of the inning for Evansville.
Again, Rink is down in the count 2-0, so Wegman can afford to look for a pitch. He gets a fastball over the middle part of the plate, up in the zone just a little bit, and Baker makes a nice stop on the play, but not able to get up and throw the runner out.
1 out. Brett Moats there now for Evansville. Moats, one of the 3 freshmen in the 7, 8, 9 positions for Jim Brownlee's team. Rink just missed inside. They appeal to the first base umpire, Tim Catton, and they called it a ball. Terry Barman is behind the plate, a native of Kansas City. The first base umpire, Tim Catton. Mark Denzin of Chicago's at second base, and Lenny Brickens of Indianapolis is the third base umpire. You see Denzin working the second bag, and that pitch is called for a strike.
We spent some time on the Evansville seniors at the top part of the lineup. Evansville's 4 runs today brings to 18 the total they've scored in 3+ games in this tournament. 14 of those runners have been the top 3 guys in their lineup, the seniors.
Wegman back. Moats is 3 for 11 in the tournament. As you take a look at Wegman getting a lead. There's Moats. 1 home run, 25 RBI. But you just get the sense that these freshmen have matured maybe a little bit ahead of the growth curve than Jim Brownlee was thinking, because this team has played good baseball in the last 6 weeks. And there's a shot to left field. That'll settle in for a hit. The onslaught continues here for Evansville in the first. Trying to score all the way from first is Wegman. The throw to the plate is not in time, and Evansville has its 5th run of the first inning. An RBI double for Brent Moats of Evansville.
Well, a mistake by Rink in a couple of fashions, Mitch, on that. Indiana State positions its defense and spends a lot of time positioning defenders in the field. The left fielder in this case was well over towards the gap. There's a fastball on the inside part of the plate, maybe even out of the zone. And Moats is able to turn on it and send it down into the corner. Zaucha makes the play cleanly, but Jim Brownlee playing aggressive baseball, and Wegman scores from first on the double to left field.
Evansville leading 5-1. Van Adder, the catcher, out to talk to Rink, try to settle him down a little bit, and the Indiana State bullpen is working. And Mike Scott, that's the closer, is up and getting loose. He has not thrown that much recently for Indiana State. Bob Warren told us that he would use Scott early, but I don't think he was thinking this early.
Well, he hasn't thrown, in fact, in this tournament yet. You don't often get to the 4th day of a tournament without having used your closer at least for 1 inning. He has not thrown. He can be stretched into maybe 3 or 4 innings, but again, this is do or die for the Sycamores. They've got to win this tournament in order to get into the NCAA, so you don't hold anything back at this point.
One of the more remarkable stories in college baseball this season. Those of you who followed college baseball close know this young man. It's Anthony Molina. He was involved last year in that unfortunate circumstance in this ballpark when on a warm-up pitch he was hit by Wichita State pitcher Ben Christensen. It was thought that he would never play baseball again. And Jim Brownlee told us last night it is a miracle of almost Old Testament proportions that this kid is even in the batter's box taking swings here. 20/60 vision. He still has a blind spot in the left eye and takes a pitch inside. Jim Brownlee told us last night, Scott, that he thought that Molina wanted to play, he wanted to come back, but he really struggled in fall ball. And when they were indoors during the winter working out, Brownlee thought that there was no way he could play. But when he got outside, he started hacking the ball, and even though he's hitting .250 and doesn't have a hit in the tournament, it's a remarkable story for this kid to even be playing.
We can't capture the emotion of the whole story for either Brownlee or Molina, I'm sure. But Brownlee was concerned about his health prior to the start of the spring season. They were inside. Molina was having difficulty swinging the bat, fielding ground balls off the hard inside surface. And then when they got outside, it was just a magic transformation. He started swinging the bat well. Intra-squad games, he was hitting line drives off of their pitchers. And he's not had a great year, but just the fact that he's back in the lineup and has been a contributor in a senior year is just a tremendous compliment to his drive and his determination.
You just can't imagine how much courage and determination this kid has shown. You hear the word resilient used throughout this Evansville team. In fact, Jack Dahm, the coach at Creighton, used that word to describe the team. But if there is an epitome of resiliency on this team, it is Molina. Molina chops it foul. 1 out for Evansville. We're still in the bottom half of the first. Evansville has scored 5 times, and they have a runner at second base.
Everybody be ready.
Michael Rink, a sophomore right-hander out of Sullivan, Indiana, trying to keep this game close for the Sycamore. Just chopped towards Firebrand, the first baseman, flips to Rink for the out. And Molina remains hitless in the tournament.
Both sides are pleased with that play. Indiana State for the fact that it got the second out of the inning, and Evansville for the fact that Molina, despite getting put out, moved the runner over to third base, 90 feet closer to scoring the Evansville 6th run of the inning.
We'll bring up the 9th place hitter, Vince Serafini, who is not exactly a bargain in the 9-hole. He's hitting .256, but he's had timely hits. He also has 6 home runs and 21 RBI. And Bob Warren wants to come out and talk to Rink and decide how they're going to throw to Vince Serafini. Serafini, who's done an outstanding job of pitching for Evansville, but Warren just wants to make sure that they know how to throw to an atypical 9th place hitter here in Serafini.
They may be discussing that. He kind of looks like he's ready for Mike Scott to be ready and come in from the bullpen. You probably wouldn't go out normally to discuss pitching to the 9-hole hitter, but and there we see the move being made to the bullpen. So Indiana State, again, with its backs to the wall, has no choice, and they want to prevent this base runner on third base from crossing the plate. So Indiana State will make its second change of the first inning.
And they're going to go to their closer with only 2 outs in the first inning. That's like going Christmas shopping on Valentine's Day. As Mike Scott will come in to throw now as Michael Rink gets an out. We'll step aside here, but Evansville has got it going on in the bottom half of the first in this semifinal game of the Mountain Dew Missouri Valley Conference Tournament.
Would you knowingly risk burning your Roundup Ready soybeans? If you spray the leading imitator instead of Roundup Ultra herbicide, your crop could suffer imitator injury up to 53% of the time. Why risk imitator injury or take chances with your crop? Trust Roundup Ultra with exclusive Transorb technology. Proven crop safety on over 75 million acres of Roundup Ready soybeans.
Michael Rink able to get an out, but it's taken 2 pitchers to get 2 outs for Indiana State here in the bottom half of the first. You see Evansville already 5 runs on 5 hits. And Bob Warren senses that if he doesn't keep Evansville at bay, they'll be heading back to Terre Haute here soon.
We've spent some time on Indiana State's pitching staff. Evansville, as we've said as well, is in good shape. Their closer is available, and their closer actually is a guy who could stretch his time out to 4, 5, or 6 innings, as he has already one time this year. So Evansville's in pretty good shape right now, 5-1, but of course they're looking to score more. Indiana State just needs to stop the bleeding and get back to the plate so they can try and put some damage against Evansville.
Mike Scott, it's been a good year for closers in the Valley. Willie Glenn for Evansville. Also Wichita State with Bauer, outstanding closer. Scott has 9 saves this season. Now, he's just trying to keep his team in the game here. He's 0 for 3, which is a little bit misleading, but he's at a 2.67 ERA. And he starts out Vince Serafini with a swinging strike.
Work it hard, everybody here.
Mike Scott, a junior out of St. Louis. A couple St. Louisans on this team. And he's ahead of Serafini, 0-2.
And he's a guy who throws strikes. He's not overpowering, but he does have better velocity than either Woods or Rink had on the mound, and typically has control within the strike zone, so likes to work the fastball low, both in and out.
But he's thrown 30 1/3 pitches, innings, I should say, all season long. But he gets Serafini on 3 pitches. Quick work by Mike Scott, but Evansville does major damage in the first. Evansville with 5 runs in the bottom half of the first leads 5-1. Leading Indiana State 5-1. How about this ballpark? What, $7 million they put into this thing in several different phases? This thing is magnificent.
It's been a slow, long process for Gene Stevenson and Wichita State to get this stadium to where Gene Stevenson has it at this point. $7.5 million on the latest renovation. Finished basically in 12 months, or less than 12 months, because the process started at the end of the 1999 season, and Wichita State moved into it on March 28th. But just an amazing facility.
There are AA and AAA teams that would kill to have this facility. Leading off the second inning for Indiana State is Chad Zaucha, and man, has he had a tournament. He jumped all over Creighton in the first game of the tournament, had 7 RBI against the Blue Jays in that game. 2 home runs against the Blue Jays, including a grand slam, and Zaucha drills one, but right at the center fielder, Doug Schoencase, for the first out of the second.
Indiana State is going to go up swinging the bat. Davis is not going to walk people, especially with a 4-run lead after the first inning. He doesn't walk many people normally, so the Sycamores will be ready with the bat, and they just have to chip away and hope that their pitching can hold them on the other side. But they can't worry about trying to make up 4 runs in the first inning that they are back at the plate after the first.
But you got to feel like Wes Davis is a whole bunch more relaxed out there now that his team gets 5 runs for him in the bottom half of the first.
He's battling a little different emotion right now than he was after having given up the leadoff home run to Barmas.
Wegman, the shortstop, and there's 2 outs for Indiana State in the second as Ryan Firebrand grounds out 6-3.
Wegman making his second start of the year at shortstop. We talked about how he has been the center fielder in the outfield for most of the year. Evansville lost its starting shortstop, Wes Carroll, in the final regular season series. So that has forced some changes, and Davis has become the starting shortstop. But with he on the mound, Wegman moves in for just the second time, so he opens his play defensively with a nice, easy chance.
Kevin Egley in now, left-handed hitter, hitting .273 for Indiana State. A freshman. Out of West Terre Haute takes a strike. 5-1 Evansville in the top half of the second inning. You know, I like what Evansville has done. Some college programs, like with their pitchers in particular, will not have them be position players. But Evansville and Jim Brownlee's decided to put his best athletes on the field. And a lot of his pitchers are position players.
In an ideal situation, you don't have to do that, but Evansville is working with a full allotment of scholarships, but they've had some injury problems this year, and their depth maybe is not where Brownlee would like for it to be. So in that situation, you do work with the best players you have, and if it requires for somebody to, your outfielder or your infielder to go onto the mound every 4th or 5th day, so be it. You're not professional ball players. You're not getting paid to play. You don't need to specialize. You just need to contribute to the team.
Davis down. Low with that delivery. 2 outs, nobody on for Indiana State here in the top half of the second. Tough play for the shortstop. Rushes the throw, not in time. As Kevin Egley beats out the slow chopper, and Indiana State has a runner on with 2 outs in the second.
Wegman made a nice play on the ball, a slow hopper that gets over the pitcher Davis. He gets it on the 3rd hop. He short hops it, but Egley too quick down the line, despite the nice play by Wegman.
Second hit for Indiana State. Here's Chris Hall, Sycamore third baseman. This kid's really had a nice season. He's a freshman hitting .251, but pop in the bat. He's got 9 home runs, and he's hit 9-hole for Indiana State much of the late portion of the season. But there you see his numbers. 9 home runs and 40 RBI for a guy that hits in the bottom third of the order.
Kind of a quirk in the Indiana State lineup. He has been the 9-hole hitter for most of the last half of the season. Today he's up in the 8th spot, but he has obviously provided a great deal of offense in the lower part of the lineup.
Drilled into left. That's a base hit. Back-to-back singles with 2 outs as the engine running for Indiana State here in the top half of the second inning.
That's a pitch I'm sure Davis would like to have back. He's ahead in the count 0-2, and he leaves an off-speed pitch up in the strike zone. Hall, despite being out in front of the pitch, is able to wrist it into left field, and now the 9-hole hitter becomes important because if he can reach base somehow, that gets Clinton Barmas back to the plate with runners in scoring position for Indiana State.
But it's been a problem for Ben Van Adder in this tournament to get on base. Another freshman hitting .242. Just 1 hit for Van Adder in the tournament in 11 attempts. As Davis just misses outside of the delivery to Ben Van Adder. Van Adder in a slump, 1 for his last 27. And the 9th place hitter is ahead in the count, 2 balls and no strikes. 3-0.
A pitching coach's nightmare. You laid the numbers out. 1 for 27, 9-hole hitter, runners on base, and he's behind 3-0 now. And again, Indiana State's best hitter, Clinton Barmas, looms in the on-deck circle.
And Van Adder walks on 4 pitches. Now Van Adder is a guy who had struck out 56 times on the season. The 9-hole walks on 4 pitches. And back to the top of the order, and Clint Barmas, and you know about this guy. Maybe, well, the scouts told Bob Warren that he's the best player. A lot of the scouts have said he's the best player they've seen. Position player, which is high praise. And this kid is headed for a big league contract after the end of this season. He'll be a high draft.
And what does Davis do? He starts him off with a fastball low on the knees on the outside part of the plate.
5-1 lead, but that could change. But this is grounded toward the shortstop. Wegman's throw to first, and Indiana State, with their best hitter at the plate, leaves them loaded in the second. The Evansville Purple Aces remain in control of the game. Evansville 5, Indiana State 1. We go to the home half of the second.
Of coffee. At Drury Inn, we can understand that. Drury Inn, all the comforts of home, even when you're not.
Mitch Holtis back in the air capital of Wichita. Evansville gets 5 in the first. They lead 5-1 as we go to the bottom half of the second inning. Today's Prairie Farms Missouri Valley Conference Scholar Athlete of the game is Evansville's Phil Broshears, a senior from right there in Evansville. He's a second-team All-Conference DH for the Purple Aces, a unanimous selection to the first-team Scholar Athlete squad. He has a 3.75 in sports medicine. Evansville is one of the nation's top schools in sports medicine. Academics are important in the Missouri Valley Conference, so let's salute Phil Broshears. Today's Prairie Farms Missouri Valley Conference Scholar Athlete of the game is Evansville's first hitter of the second inning as Ryan Connors grounds out.
Center fielder Doug Shonecase.
As there's a look at Phil Broshears in the on-deck circle.
It's easy to forget that they have classroom responsibilities when you see them on television playing basketball or baseball or softball or whatever it might be. But obviously he's done a tremendous job in the classroom, and the honor is well deserved.
And you know, baseball guys face as tough a challenge, I think, as maybe any of the athletes on campus. That could be argued. But they're on the road so much, they bus most of the places, do not fly. They miss a lot of midweek games. And sometimes, and the crunch of their season comes right at the finals time of the spring semester.
Add to all of that they simply play more contests than the other athletes do inside the athletics department. So it is difficult. Coaches work at it all the time. That's why the Valley squeezes 4 games into the Friday night through Sunday afternoon window to try and eliminate as much missed class time as you can. But it is very difficult for these guys during the spring.
Shonecase swings at a bad pitch and strikes out. And one of the few times Evansville has had a bad swing in this game.
Mike Scott working very effectively thus far. Shonecase down in the count 0-2. Scott works the slider on the outside part of the plate, and clearly not a pitch you want to swing at, but down in the count 1-2. Shonecase was ready to go and missed badly.
Here's Broshears. We just talked about him, but Scott now has struck out 2 of the first 3 hitters he's faced.
Right here.
And he's using an economy of pitches, which if you're Bob Warren is good to see, because as we've mentioned, he is the closer. He does have the ability to go out 3-4 innings, perhaps 5 if necessary, but Right now, the Sycamores just need him to work quickly and be very effective.
Scott shakes off the first sign. And a whiff by Broshears. Broshears came into the game leading the tournament in hitting. 6 for 10. You see he singled his first time up, so 7 for 11. What a tournament he's had. DH is a lot, but he's playing right field in this game and stays on his tear with a single up the middle. A 2-out single for Phil Broshears will bring Matt Serafini to the plate. Bottom half of the second, it's 5-1 Evansville.
A nice piece of hitting by Broshears down in the count, just trying to put the ball in play. We talked about that during his first at-bat. He has only struck out 21 times and more than 200 at-bats, so he's not going to strike out very often. He puts the ball in play and he's on base again.
Matt Serafini, as the ball gets away from Van Adder, the throw to second, not in time. And the speed of Phil Broshears gives Evansville a runner in scoring position with 2 out in the second.
There's a ball in the dirt. Van Adder with a nice job of keeping the ball in front of him. Broshears does not leave until he sees the ball loose in front of the catcher and barely eludes the tag on a nice throw from Van Adder.
Alert base running. They're going to call it a wild pitch to put Broshears at second. As Serafini swings and misses, 1 ball, 1 strike. Mike Scott on the mound, the third pitcher to appear for Indiana State. We're just in the bottom half of the second. Misses down, and the count now 2 balls and 1 strike. The longest outing that Scott has had this season, 3 1/3 innings on March 28th against Eastern Illinois. Bob Warren needs him to go much longer than that today. Scott working very quickly. As you look at Mike Scott, an ERA of 2.67 this season.
Indiana State concerned that Evansville might be involved in trying to catch signs from the catcher Van Adder out towards Scott, so they confab at the mound to make sure that that doesn't happen. Baseball's an honest sport. That wouldn't happen, would it?
No. Happens every day at all levels. Van Adder has been, Scott has been shaking him off though several times already in this game. 2-2 pitch with a runner at second. Chop foul to Jim Brownlee in the third base coaching box. Jim Brownlee last night when we talked to him, genuinely excited. You could see the spark in his spirit knowing that his team 39-19, a chance for a 40-win season for the 4th time in school history. And a chance to go to postseason play for the first time as a Valley member. Fair ball out in front of the plate. Van Adder throws out Serafini. Evansville goes quietly in the second. But Evansville leading this ball game at the end of 2. The Purple Aces have a 4-run advantage.
In there all year long, screaming and carrying on. Royals, Pacers, even the Blues. And he's never been on skates in his whole life. And he'll be screaming at the players like he can do it better. Fool.
Everybody listen, I know you're all here to return your satellite dishes. If you're returning your dish because you don't get local programming, your line is here.
Service and installation was too expensive.
I found out I needed a separate receiver for each set.
If you're here because you think programming is too expensive, please step into this line.
Excuse me. I just think that satellite TV is too complicated. I want my cable back.
Okay, new line.
If you're thinking about satellite TV, you might want to think twice. Cable TV, the best value in home entertainment.
Nobody has better tire selection, better people, or a better price than Auto Tire. Our bottom line price is the guaranteed lowest. with nothing extra to buy. Every tire we sell includes complete installation, free replacement road hazard warranty, and 24-hour roadside assistance. That adds up to the best value anywhere. And now, buy a set of Michelin tires, get a free car cleaning kit. Come to Auto Tire for lifetime brakes, $79.90. Our computerized alignment, $39.90. At Auto Tire, we'll win you with great prices. We'll keep you with great service.
For the cup, run for the ring. NHL and NBA playoff highlights tonight.
Let's take a look now at the conference standings, a presentation of Edward D. Jones. More than 125 years of experience helping individuals build financial security. Wichita State, the regular season champion. 14 consecutive years the Shockers have won the regular season title in the Missouri Valley. You see Evansville's wonderful season and 39 overall wins. Creighton, you can almost plead a bid for Jack Dom's team. 38 wins. They were in the top 25 for a long time early in the season, but just did not have a very good tournament.
Outside of owning Wichita State with 4 wins in 5 games over them, they could make a very strong case, but they just did not advance far enough in the tournament to likely warrant the at-large spot.
Dustin James grounds the West Davis pitch to Brian Wegman, the shortstop, and 1 out in the 3rd inning. It's a special day here in Wichita, and one of the reasons, these men, Sherwood Brewer, Bose Biddle, as waving to you there. Also Jim Robinson and the 4th member of that crew, all members of the old Negro Leagues. Mule Miles. They're here in town to help promote the Negro League Foundation and the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. Just a spectacular monument to those great players. Of course, great tradition in this area with the Kansas City Monarchs. But they're in town today to raise the level of awareness for the Negro Leagues and, in particular, the Negro Leagues Foundation. There's a hot shot up the middle for a hit by J.C. Baker with 1 out in the top of the 3rd.
Can you imagine what's going through their minds as they sit here in this collegiate stadium and think back to their playing days and who knows what kind of facilities they were playing in?
Some of the ballparks they played in, particularly when they went on their barnstorming tours. In fact, a couple of the guys here, and they're wearing their uniforms. If we can get a shot of them again, there's a Monarchs uniform and a Chicago American Giants, I believe they were called. There they are. There's a Monarchs uniform. The Indianapolis Clowns. But after their season, they would go on tours. They'd go on a barnstorming tour and play town teams and anybody they could find to play them. And they'd play in fields and back lots and anything they could find. Tommy Jeffers, the Indiana State DH up there. He popped out to the shortstop his last time up. But hitting .324 for the season. 5 for 13 in the tournament. Had a home run against Creighton. Good pitch from Davis for a called strike. Baker's at first. There's 1 out. Top of the 3rd. 5-1 Evansville. Davis brings the heat and whiffs Jeffers for his 2nd strikeout of the game.
Left fielder
Jeffers 2-2 on the count, looking for something on the inside part of the plate and maybe not expecting the fastball as well, but a perfect pitch from Davis. Jeffers not close on the swing.
Chad Zauchiup, a very dangerous hitter for Indiana State. Zaucha hit one hard but out to the center fielder his first time up, and we mentioned he's had a fabulous tournament. He's 11 for 27 of the last 7 games with 4 home runs, including 2 grand slams.
Got me, baby, got me, 2-5.
Davis misses down and falls behind in the count. Runner at first, again 2 outs, 5-1 Evansville. The winner will play Wichita State tonight in the championship game. Here's a look at J.C. Baker. This one shot into the gap in left center field. Cut off by the center fielder. They're going to hold up Baker at 3rd, and into second base is Zaucha with a double. Chad Zaucha continues his outstanding tournament, and at Indiana State which left the bases loaded in the second, threatening here in the third.
Indiana State's not going to give up and quit in this game. Zaucha doesn't hit it out of the park, as he's done much through the last couple of weeks, but he does hit the ball hard and into the gap. But an excellent play by center fielder Shonacase to prevent a run from Indiana State. Baker on first base when the play started had to stop at third because Shonacase cut the ball off before it got to the fence.
See Zaucha's 6th double of the season. There's now Ryan Firebend up there for Indiana State, a senior, hitting .335, 4 home runs, had 3 hits against Wichita State. One of the few guys in the lineup that was able to try to get anything done against Adam Peterson. There's a pitch that's misses away. 2 balls, no strikes. 2 outs. Runners at second and third. 5-1 lead for Evansville. Firebend falls behind, 3 balls and no strikes. The 7th place hitter Kevin Egley's on deck.
Really a big situation again for the Sycamores. They had the bases loaded back in the second with their best hitter at the plate, and they couldn't convert any of the opportunities. But down still 5-1. They obviously need to get some guys across the plate.
And Davis zings a strike. As Firebend taking all the way.
And this is a count that Firebend really has the advantage in.
3-1. Good pitch from Davis. Had Firebend out on his front foot. Now the count is full.
Excellent 3-1 pitch, off-speed pitch on the outside part of the plate. If you're Firebend, you're probably looking for a fastball, and maybe you lay off the curveball, but it would have been a strike anyway. So now a 3-2 count, and neither side has the advantage.
Davis's payoff is wasted foul up the right field side. Bob Warren, 2 sons on this team. His oldest son also played for him. 3 boys that have all been a part of the Indiana State program. 3-2 pitch, a breaking pitch, hit hard right at Wegman, the shortstop. A nice pitch by Wes Davis to get out of the inning, and Indiana State has stranded 5 runners in the last 2 innings. As the Evansville Purple Aces continue their lead here, 5-1 Evansville, as we go to the bottom half of the third. Third inning, Evansville takes a 5-1 lead. As the Aces bring out Joe Noel to the plate. Last time up, Noel, take a look at this. Excellent piece of hitting. Pitch down and away, and he takes it to the opposite field for a 2-run home run. Count now 1-1 to Joe Noel. Big at bat for Noel. Again, just his 3rd home run of the season. And those are the kind of at bats that loom large in a tournament like this.
There have been several in this game already. Noel with the 2-run homer on the excellent pitch from Woods, the starter for Indiana State. Indiana State in each of the last 2 at-bats has had a chance to get some runners across the plate. Bases loaded back in the second and third in the top half of this inning, and Wes Davis able to wiggle off the hook. But Indiana State will look back at those at-bats and wonder later in the game.
Mike Scott hasn't walked anybody, but he's fallen behind Noel 3-1, and now he has. Noel with a leadoff walk, and as good as Evansville has the ability to move runners around. Wegman comes up for Evansville, and all kinds of opportunities now here for Jim Brownlee's team.
Noel has had limited playing time this year. He does have 1 stolen base and 4 attempts, but again, Evansville with the upper hand, and Brownlee said yesterday he likes to get guys in motion. He likes to put pressure on the opposing team's defense, and he'll have that opportunity here in the 3rd inning.
Brian Wegman up, single and scored a run in the 5-run first for Evansville. Sees average at 270. Scott misses away on his first delivery to Wegman. Wegman also pitches for this team. I mentioned a lot of their position players also on the mound for Evansville, a 7.28 ERA. And you should recognize his last name. His brother Bill was an 11-year major leaguer. Nobody out for Evansville here, bottom half of the first, and they lead 5-1. Pitch nibbles on the corner, and Terry Barman calls it a strike. Scott, a little soft toss over to Fireban.
Noel has his attention, and we mentioned that he has just one stolen base, but knowing that Evansville is going to want to put the ball in play and put pressure on the defense, Scott has his attention divided right now between the base runner and the batter.
Fouled back by Wegman. The first days of this tournament, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, were really pitchers kind of days. It was cold, overcast, the wind was howling in from over the left field wall, particularly in Friday's games. I'm sorry, on Thursday's games, but this is now more of a hitter's kind of day. Just a beautiful day here in Wichita. A few clouds, but a warm spring day. Just perfect for baseball. Pitch is down. And it's a 2-2 count now to Brian Wegman.
Both of the home runs we've seen already today were balls that the outfielders thought they had plays on. So the wind has died at the moment. The flag hanging straight down out in right center field, but a good day for the hitters.
Scott still worried about Noel. Throws over there. 3:30 down the lines here, so it's deep in the corners at X Stadium, the home of Tyler Field, but 390 to center, so it's really friendly for the hitters towards center field. In the power alleys, it's 375. The count now full to Brian Wegman of Evansville. Runner at first, nobody out, 5-1. The Aces. There's your look at the power alleys. In really just a wonderful ballpark. New turf put down on the field. And a new warning track in as well. Ball 4. Mike Scott had great control, and now he's walked the first two hitters of the inning in the third.
Well, Mike Scott has not thrown in this tournament, but you have to wonder, as the closer, he doesn't often work more than an inning or two, and he's just now into his second full inning, but he has not had the same type of control to the first two batters that he's faced here in the third as he did in the second inning and back for the final out of the first inning.
Keep in mind his longest stint, 3 1/3 innings the entire season. This is a bunting situation for Moats, and he bunts foul. Moats, Molina, and Serafini, the bottom three in the order for Evansville, and with nobody out and a 5-1 lead in the bottom half of the third, a perfect bunt situation for Jim Brownlee's team. Moats hasn't sacrificed all that much this season. Shows bunt early. And a bluff move at second. He only has one sacrifice this entire season, but this is a situation where he needs to get a bunt down for Brownlee's team. Shows bunt early. Pitches away, and the count is even at 1-1 strike.
Evansville with only 18 sacrifice hits for the year. A little surprising there, knowing how much the offense has had to work to get to score runs. The team hits 283 for the year, so not a great offensive team by college standards. And usually they have to manufacture runs, but a low number of sacrifice hits.
Jim Brownlee, though, is telling us how unselfish this team is, that guys will get up there and chop behind runners to move runners, give up at-bats to put their team in a good position to score in an inning.
In fact, he said directly that was his advice and his directives to the lower part of the lineup. You guys need to move the guys ahead.
And now you don't even need to bunt. Pitches in the dirt, gets away from Van Adder, and the runners move up to where Brownlee wants him without sacrificing the out.
Mike Scott continuing to have trouble controlling his pitches. That just a fastball that he hangs on to too long, and it bounces again well in front of the plate. Van Adder is taking a beating in the last couple of innings, but he does control the ball and keeps the runners from advancing any further than one base.
Mike Scott has a good hard slider and a sinker ball, but he's missed here. 2 walks, and there's a liner. That's a fair ball. 2 runs will score. As Moats has 3 RBI in the day, he's going to try for third, and the throw is not in time. He slides under the tag. of the third baseman, Chris Hall, and it's a 2 RBI triple with nobody out for Evansville in the third.
2-1 count, a hitter's count for Moats. A ball on the outside part of the plate that he doesn't try to pull. He just puts it in play, lines it into the right field corner, and even without the wild pitch, Evansville's going to score 2 runs on that play. But Indiana State now down 7-1, and of more concern, a base runner on third, nobody out, and Mike Scott continuing to have trouble locating his pitches here in the third.
And Molina, who has not have a hit in the tournament, and Indiana State's going to go ahead and pull its infield in with a 7-1 deficit in the bottom half of the third. Bob Warren knows that any more runs just makes it all that much tougher on his team. There's the positioning of the infield. Ball gets away again from Van Adder. The runner from third not able to advance. The count is no balls and 2 strikes to Molina. And now with the 0-2 count, it takes away the squeeze situation, but it's almost a perfect safety squeeze situation for Evansville with nobody out here in the 7-1 lead in the bottom half of the third. Molina swings and misses for the first out of the third inning.
You know that has to frustrate him. Before the incident last spring, he was really one of Evansville's best power hitters, and he comes into today's game with just a .248 average. He has 4 home runs and 18 RBIs, but he's got a chance for an RBI there. Nobody out, runner on third, and he doesn't put the ball in play.
Vince Serafini, infield stays in. As Scott misses inside ball 1. Vince Serafini, he is hitless in the tournament. Struck out his first time up. He's 0 for 9 as a hitter in the tournament, and that one catches the corner. But what a job he has done pitching. Threw a no-hitter against Southwest Missouri State at the end of the season, the first no-hitter for Evansville since 1990, and a complete game 8-hitter to beat Creighton in this tournament. And Scott now ahead, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
And he's been tremendous throughout the entire conference schedule. He's made 6 starts against conference teams, and all 6 of those are complete games.
2 Serafinis on this team and another one coming. The younger brother signed a letter of intent. He'll be on the campus next year out of the Chicago area. Serafini whiffs, and back-to-back strikeouts by Mike Scott now will give Indiana State the opportunity to put the infield back. 2 outs, 7-1 Evansville.
Serafini 0 for 8 in the tournament, 0 for 2 today, 2 strikeouts. That time he did swing the bat, but not close on the swing attempt. Scott now with a chance to get out of the inning and minimize the damage to 2 runs.
Connors 0 for 1, walked and scored in the first. Grounded out to short his last time up. Now hitting .305. Evansville with 7 runs in the first 3 innings of the game. 5 in the first and 2 in this inning. They have a runner at third with 2 outs. That just up. And the advantage to the hitter here, Ryan Connors. 2 balls, no strikes. Connors, a little pop in the bat. Had a grand slam against Wichita State during the regular season. Scott a little further up with that pitch. And on deck is the dangerous Doug Schoencase. Ball 4. It's the 3rd walk of the inning for Mike Scott.
Indiana State had a man up in the bullpen earlier in the inning. He looks like somebody's now just getting ready as well. But Mike Scott has really been kind to Evansville in this inning. The first 2 batters he faced walked. They were tripled in by Brett Moats, and now Hancock is up in the pen for Indiana State. He's not ready, so Scott's got at least 1 more batter, perhaps more.
Schoencase, runner moving on the first pitch on the 1st and 3rd. The second baseman cuts the throw off in front of the bag. The runner at third stays put, but now runners at 2nd and 3rd with 2 outs in the bottom half of the 3rd inning. And Evansville can really open a gash in the Indiana State wound with a hit here. There's a stolen base for Ryan Connors. Sean Case doubled and scored his first at bat, struck out his last time up, and now Scott really struggling with his control.
And it really started with the first batter he faced in this inning, Noel, after having gone so well to close out the bottom in the first and working an easy second inning. He came out throwing balls to the first two batters. Those two guys have scored, and he seemed to have found himself just slightly, but now he's back into having trouble with control inside the strike zone.
Tap foul by Sean Case. Sean Case, who is a senior from St. Louis, went to University High School. He's going to be in veterinary medicine school, they tell us, next fall at the University of Missouri. This will be Scott's 46th pitch. Just missed inside.
And he came into the inning having thrown just 16, so he's on 30 pitches here in the bottom of the third. Again, you can't overemphasize the fact that he does not often go beyond 2 or 3 innings, 2 innings at most generally, and that's probably anywhere from 25 to 30 pitches on average. So he's well above his average, even though he has not thrown previously in this tournament.
Chop to the shortstop. Barmas out of the hole and throws him out. So Evansville leaves 2 on in the third, but the Asins cruise to 2 more runs. We played 3 here in Wichita, and Evansville leads 7-1.
Everybody
is a nice outfield area, and you see some families out there at the picnic table enjoying it. The Coleman picnic area, it's just really made it great for families to go out there, and what a perfect day with a day like today to get out there and bring everybody to the ballpark and have a good time.
Coleman has been a part of Wichita State's athletics program for a long time, and that really kind of capped off the drive to get the push for the stadium started with the gifts for the Coleman pavilions and for other landscaping work out beyond the fence in the here in Eck Stadium. So just another facet of what is just an unbelievable facility.
Kevin Egley leads off the 4th inning for Indiana State. They trail 7-1. Corporate sponsorship, a necessary part now of the college sports scene. Mountain Dew, of course, our sponsor of this tournament. Missouri Valley Conference Mountain Dew postseason tournament. 7 runs, 7 hits for Evansville. A run on 5 hits for this Indiana State team, which has stranded 5 in the last 2 innings. 2 balls and 2 strikes here the count.
Excuse me, Mitch. Indiana State really has had a couple of opportunities that it's not taken advantage of. Evansville, on the other hand, has. It received 2 gift runs in the bottom of the 3rd inning. So now the deficit is 6. And if you're Indiana State, you're not overly concerned, but at the same time, you need to start taking advantage of those situations when they come about.
And Wes Davis has a nice pitch on the inner third of the plate to catch Egley looking. 3rd strikeout for Davis.
Egley either not looking for a pitch on that part of the plate or just decided it wasn't a strike and he wasn't going to swing at it, but a 2-2 count, and the pitch obviously was over the corner. So Wes Davis with a nice start here in the 4th.
Good looking freshman player up there now for Indiana State. Chris Hall singled his first time up. Hit 255 at the tournament. He's 5 for 11. Had 2 hits against Wichita State, including a double. And part of a group which gives Bob Warren a lot of hope for the future in the Terre Haute. Hit hard. Smack to the 3rd baseman Connors, but it ends up being an easy play and 2 outs with the first 2 hitters of the 4th inning for Indiana State.
Indiana State really hit the ball well in its opening game Wednesday against Creighton. They scored 6 runs in the top of the 1st inning to establish their tone for the tournament and went on to a 15-4 victory over the Blue Jays. Have hit the ball well since. They actually had 9 hits in the ball game last night against Wichita State's Peterson, who is a projected top 10 round draft choice in June. So they have continued to swing the bats well, but they haven't been as productive as they were in the first 2 days.
Popped up, goes back into fair territory, where the first baseman Vince Serafini takes it in, and Indiana State goes very quietly in the 4th. The Sycamores down in order. They trail 7-1. We go to the bottom of the 4th.
Sportsnet.
Back in Wichita, let's take a look at our tournament scores up to this point, brought to you by AT&T. Scott, you mentioned Indiana State jumped out there on Creighton on Wednesday right away. Evansville lost its first game, but with their pitching, came back to win their next 2. Phil Broshears drills one, but to deep left, and it stays in the ballpark where Chad Zaucha hauls it in at the warning track. Let's go back to the scores. Let's take a look at what Evansville, and this is where the pitching has come into play for the Purple Aces.
Evansville losing in the opening round to Southwest Missouri State, so that drops them to the losers bracket, which puts a premium on your pitching depth, but Evansville has the best staff in the league, so they get a complete game effort from Vince Serafini yesterday. Preston Larison, the freshman standout, went 6 innings in the second round game to keep them alive, to get them to Serafini yesterday, and then they enter today with Wes Davis, one of their best starters, and Ryan Miller perhaps tonight, should Evansville hang on to this victory.
Matt Serafini up now for Evansville. 0 for 2 in this game, as Mike Scott delivers a strike to him. Nobody on, 1 out, bottom half of the 4th, and Evansville cruising along here. You see 7 runs on 7 hits to lead by 6 runs. Spank to the third baseman Hall, but he throws out Matt Serafini. 2 outs. The first 2 hitters for Evansville in the bottom half of the 4th.
And quick outs at that. Scott threw at least 32, 33 pitches back in the 3rd. He's got 2 outs here through 4 pitches in the 4th. Indiana State, and he will be thankful if he can continue that trend on the final batter this inning, Noel.
And here's the guy who started his problems in the 3rd, Noel. In the 3rd inning, has had a heck of a game. A 2-run home run first, walked, scored 2 runs. And that pitch is down. 2 balls and no strikes. Evansville with a lot of seniors on the team, 5 in the lineup. And yet a blend of young kids and older kids. Noel, a sophomore, and he takes low ball 3. Jim Brownlee liking the afternoon so far. Here's the 3-0. Ball 4. 2 consecutive walks to Joe Noel of Evansville.
College baseball, not yet like college basketball, Mitch, in that it loses players quickly. Major League Baseball and the colleges have the agreement, actually, that players can't be drafted until they are 21 or until after their 3rd year of eligibility. So teams have a chance to build some experience. Evansville comes into the game with 5 seniors. They've got at least 6 starters in the lineup who have played for 2 years or more. So they've been able to build a program and build some depth over the recent years with the addition of that freshman class back in 1997, and they have a chance here to make history in the program.
Again, they want to get to the NCAA tournament, even if they don't get the automatic bid. Generally thought that they've got a great shot for an at-large bid. They're 39-19. If they make it, it'll be the first time since Andy Bennis led the Aces to the tournament in 1988 when they beat #1 ranked Arizona State that season. Runner at first, 2 outs, and there's a strike to Brian Wegner.
There was a lot of focus on that game, as I recall. Bennis ended up being the #1 pick overall in the '88 draft, but of course that hadn't happened when Evansville went out to Tempe to play Arizona State. Arizona State #1, Bennis, the best pitcher in the land that year, and he shut down the Sun Devils, and Evansville did not win any more games, but nonetheless they got their first victory in their first tournament appearance.
Brian Wegman now has reached base 3 times in 3 plate appearances. He lines one to the opposite field and right. And Evansville continues the heat here. They threaten in the 4th inning with 2 outs with runners at first and second for Brett Moats, who last time up there had a triple. He's had a double and a triple and 3 RBI. Outs have been hard to come by for Indiana State in this game. As we take a look at the last time Brett Moats came to the plate.
Brett Moats with a 2-1 count, looking for a fastball. He gets it on the outer part of the plate and drives it down the right field line. Indiana State at that time had its infield in to try and prevent a play at the plate that may or may not have impacted on the ball getting through and over the first baseman fire bend, but nonetheless Evansville scored 2 runs on the play, and that built the 6-run lead.
Moats misses. Now he's down on the count, no balls and 2 strikes to Mike Scott. During the regular season, these 2 teams split their 4-game regular season series. The 0-2. grounded. The third baseman Hall. He throws out Brent Moats, and the threat ends for Evansville in the fourth inning. Evansville has scored 7 runs, but they've also stranded 6 in the game.
All across the country, winter is finally turning to spring. And now, with the National Jeep Spring event, you can explore all of the season's surprises. Change your whole perspective with an incredible Grand Cherokee Laredo lease at just $339 a month for all returning Gold Key lessees of Daimler Chrysler vehicles. And climb to new heights with exceptional capability, luxury, and style. So get to your dealer today before this event takes off for the season. Check it out at your Jeep dealer.
Ba 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 ba. You try. Beep ba ba bing bang. Ba 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 ba.
No, I don't know.
You've got it there, now you've got to feel it here.
Joy of living, joy of life, joy of laughing, joy of sight, joy of cola in your life.
She's got
it! If you enjoy Branson's world-class entertainment, then you'll love Branson's world-class resort, Chateau on the Lake. On a majestic mountaintop overlooking Table Rock Lake, you'll find a grand hotel in the European tradition. The service is impeccable. The surroundings elegant. It's pure luxury all the way. It's what you deserve. Come experience Chateau on the Lake, Branson's only world-class resort. Call 1-888-333-LAKE for reservations.
There's a look at Mike Scott, the normal closer for Indiana State, but he had to come into this game in the first inning of the game with only 2 outs retired. He's thrown 61 pitches. There's his pitch count, 36 strikes. But he's not used to this many innings. He's already thrown 3 1/3, which ties his longest outing of the season.
And Indiana State really has no choice at this point. I'm sure that Bob Warren will continue to go with Mike Scott until he absolutely cannot, until Scott can't get the ball across the plate or can't get anybody else. But again, the offense now needs to start picking it up. We're into the top of the 5th. Sycamores have just 1 run and have missed a couple of opportunities, so West Davis has been cruising in the last 2 innings.
Clint Barmas lines one right at the shortstop. Brian Wegman for the first out of the inning. As you look at Wegman, who's normally an outfielder, also pitches a little, playing shortstop in this game. 1 out. Here's Dustin James. James, who played at the same junior college as Wegman, the shortstop for Evansville. And West Davis works ahead here. No balls and 2 strikes. Nobody on, 1 out. We're in the top half of the 5th, and Evansville leads 7-1. Pitch misses inside. This Indiana State team really had to rally, Scott. They were 5-11 in their first 16 league games. They finished their last 16 just the opposite, 11-5.
And again, you have to go back to even last year. This Indiana State finished 8-24 in the league. They were the 9th place team. Coaches prior to the start of this season didn't see a whole lot different for Indiana State and Bob Warren. They picked them to finish 9th once again. And then they start out 5-11, as you just said, and yet had the resiliency to bounce back. Started with a series at Southern Illinois where they took 3 out of 4. They swept Northern Iowa the following weekend, and they were right back into it, and they come in here as the number 4 seed.
I like what you said about the tradition. In the 80s, they were very much on the screen. They won this tournament in 83, 84, 86, and 89. The interesting thing about that, if you're a Wichita State fan, is you know that the golden year of 1989, the year that the Shockers won the College World Series, they didn't even win this tournament. Indiana State and Bob Warren did.
Beat them twice. Indiana State beat Wichita State twice in that tournament in the 2nd round, knocked Wichita State into the losers brackets. And Indiana State and the Shockers met up again in the first championship game. Indiana State qualified for the tournament. Wichita State was given an at-large spot, and the rest is history. But Indiana State was every bit the program Wichita State was from 1982, 83 on through 1989 or 90.
Dustin James walks, only the 2nd walk issued by West Davis. And J.C. Baker up there now and takes strike 1. 7-1. Evansville, a runner at first with 1 out in the top half of the 5th. Indiana State also won this tournament in 1995. Part of a 3-year stint when Wichita State did not win it. Southwest Missouri came in here and won twice.
The difference in Indiana State's and Wichita State's programs at that point is that Indiana State did, with the exception of 1986 when it went to the College World Series and won a game, did not take advantage of the opportunities in postseason play like Wichita State did.
J.C. Baker gets one up in the air to left. Easy play for Brett Moats. And James has to retreat to first base.
Designated hitter Tommy Jeffers.
Look at Moats, who's already had a productive day at the plate. 7-1 UE. And here's Tommy Jeffers, the DH, who's 0 for 2 as you look at Wes Davis, and there is Jeffers. Struck out his last time up. 6 for 14 in the tournament. Pitch just missing. 1 ball, no strikes. Swing and a miss by Jeffers. Talking about Indiana State, they've upgraded their facilities. Brand new scoreboard, new turf they put on their field. So Bob Warren was telling us just gradually they're trying to upgrade their facilities in Terre Haute.
And they have the standard right here in Wichita. The teams get year, in some cases every other year. They see what the best in the league has been able to do. And realistic for some of the schools and for some of the programs to reach to something like this, but nonetheless they have something to strive for and they know what they're competing against every time they come to Wichita.
Little flare, second baseman retreating. That's Molina, and able to make the play, and Indiana State is gone in the 5th. Indiana State strands a runner. There was 1 walk, but no hits. It's 7-1. The lead is Evansville. 1 to go to the bottom half of the 5th, but trying to stay focused is Jim Brownlee, his son, part of the coaching staff at the University of Evansville. Anthony Molina up 0 for 2 in this game and 0 for 12 in the tournament. Is Mike Scott still out there for Indiana State now with his longest stint of the season? Molina goes the opposite way, but flies out to left. Let's talk about Mike Scott here now. We talked about all of his appearances. This is the 30th appearance this season for Scott, but all in relief. And his longest stint, 3 1/3, as we mentioned, against Eastern Illinois. Since then, nothing even close. 1 1/3. Goes all the way back to 2 2/3 against Wichita State, but that was on April the 2nd. And this is like a week's worth of pitches for this kid.
And with the exception of the 3rd inning when he walked the 2 leadoff hitters and Evansville scored 2 runs, he's really thrown pretty well and has been effective. But he's up now near 70 pitches, and it's not as if a guy couldn't come out and throw 70 pitches on a whim. But when you've been working for 1 or 2 innings at most, your arm gets conditioned to throwing 15, 20, 30, maybe 30 pitches in the course of a game or an appearance. And the arm is not used to throwing 70 or more. So at some point, fatigue is going to set in. Maybe it won't be a factor. Maybe it will be. Some guys know how to pitch without vest up and with being tired. But at some point, he will start to show some more fatigue, and you just wonder how long he can hang in there.
JUCO kid from St. Louis, went to St. Charles Community College. Strikes out the 9th place hitter, Vince Serafini, who's now struck out 3 times in the game.
Vince has made his contribution on the mound in this tournament, and the fact that he's now 0 for 11 doesn't really matter. Evansville's ahead 7-1, and if they hang on to this game, then they have a chance to play for the championship tonight. But Vince has not been successful and has not had a good looks at the plate so far.
Ryan Connors is 0 for 1, but been on base twice with 2 walks. And takes ball 1 from Scott. Also a couple stolen bases for Ryan Connors. Pretty good cut as a Scott delivery, fouled back. 7-1 Evansville. We're in the bottom half of the 5th inning. Evansville used to play their games at Bosse Field, and that is noteworthy because it was the ballpark where the movie A League of Their Own was filmed. It was also the host of the Missouri Valley Conference postseason tournament a couple years back. But now they've moved to an on-campus facility. So for a while, the Purple Aces had something in common with the Rockford Peaches. This one is fouled wide of third. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Two outs, nobody on in the home half of the 5th. Evansville leading 7-1. It's a good baseball town, though. Don Mattingly's hometown.
And the Bennis family, of course, is from the area. The Bennises have produced 3 professional baseball players. 2 are in the major leagues right now.
And there's a swing and a whiff by Connors. An uneventful 5th inning for Evansville, but they really don't need it right now. They lead 7-1 as we go to the 6th. And a look at head coach Jim Brownlee.
Well, we saw the meeting in the dugout prior to the last half inning with the coaches and the players, and Evansville's in a pretty good situation right now, 7-1 in the top of the 6th. But I think that meeting probably was to stress some focus and some understanding of what's at stake here. This coaching staff, or at least the head coach Jim Brownlee, has been there 21 years. He's made 1 NCAA tournament appearance. Evansville with a chance at an at-large spot right now. They've been to they have the chance, if they should hang on to this lead, to play Wichita State for the automatic spot tonight. But nonetheless, I think the coaching staff probably appreciates a little more what's at stake and what's going on than the college-aged 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old players do at this moment.
And again, if Evansville could win this game, it would be their 40th victory of the season. Only 4 times that has happened in the history of Evansville baseball. Chad Zaucha up at the plate now for Indiana State, and he's ahead in the count. 3 balls and a strike. Zaucha's again had an outstanding tournament, 1 for 2, but has hit the ball hard twice and walks on this occasion. It is the 3rd walk for Wes Davis in the game. You know, I think it's also been important for Evansville. They were nibbling, getting close in this tournament, but you mentioned they were parts of other conferences, the Mid-Continent Conference. But this has been their biggest splash since they've been in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Throughout the year, it has been. They did finish 2nd. They were picked 2nd by the coaches at the start of the season. And they competed, and they actually had a chance when Wichita State came to Evansville back in early May to make a drive for 1st place and for the regular season championship. But the 2 teams split the series. Wichita State ended up winning by 4.5 games. But aside from the '98 championship game appearance in Evansville against Wichita State, this is Evansville's best team since they came into the league 6 years ago.
Ryan Firebend up there, 1-1 count, run at first, nobody out. Top half of the 6th. It's 7-1. You see the score at the upper left of your screen. Evansville is in command. They scored 5 in the 1st to jump right on top of Indiana State.
Go, 7. Where's that capper, bud?
Firebend is grounded twice to the shortstop. Swing and a miss. First base is occupied, and now the runner almost gets caught down as the pitch mishandled by the catcher Serafini for just a moment. With first base occupied, it's still a strikeout, and the hitter cannot advance.
Davis has been very effective with the slider in counts that favor the pitcher today, and that time he gets Firebend to swing at the 1-2 slider in the dirt.
4 strikeouts now for Wes Davis. Kevin Egley up there and takes a strike.
Serafini did a nice job of keeping the ball in front of him.
Another strike to Egley. Indiana State action again in the bullpen. I'd say the phones have been hot, but the way that they've been busy, they've used email, I'm sure, to keep them going up there. Because it has not been a good day for the staff. Hancock up again. He was up earlier. Egley whiffs at a pitch in the outer part of the plate. Nice job by Wes Davis. Gets back-to-back strikeouts. Now has 5 in the game.
Davis obviously has Indiana State under control at this moment. He's been able to throw strikes within the zone with both his fastball and the slider, and he's really been effective in throwing the fastball by Indiana State's hitters in the lower part of the lineup when they're looking for something off speed.
Chris Hall pulls the trigger, an off-speed pitch inside. Wegman, the shortstop, goes the short way, and Indiana State's gone in the 6th. Evansville leads this one 7-1 and looking more and more like they'll play Wichita State tonight for the title. Evansville in our semifinal game leading Indiana State here 7-1. And there's a look at Mike Scott, normally the closer for Indiana State, but he's out there thinking, okay, this is what a starter feels like. He's been out there since 2 outs in the first inning, and we're in the bottom half of the 6th. He's leading off for Evansville is Doug Schoencase, trying to bunt for a hit here. Nice play by Scott to bounce off the mound and throws out Schoencase. But no tomorrow for Indiana State, and no chance for they got to win the tournament to make the show. So Scott's out there trying to give him an opportunity.
And you got to believe that he and Bob Warren and Mitch Hanna's Indiana State's pitching coach are in contact between innings, just checking on the status of Scott's arm, wanting to find out how he's feeling. He's up near 75 pitches right now, but after walking those 2 batters to lead off the third inning and giving up those 2 runs, he's really settled down. In the 5th inning he threw was a 1-2-3 inning, which was the first one he's had, and he's ahead here in the count on the 2nd batter in the 6th.
Broshears up there now for Evansville. Pretty good day. You see there 2 for 3, 2 singles, scored a run, and 2 RBI, and just had a brilliant tournament. 8 hits in the tournament now for Phil Broshears. Swings and misses, and a nice job by Scott to get rid of Broshears in 3 pitches. And for Scott, that is his 6th strikeout.
We need to find out from Indiana State what the magic potion was that was being rubbed on Scott's arm between innings a couple innings ago.
Two outs in the inning, nobody on. Matt Serafini, the cleanup hitter, up for Evansville. 7-1, the Purple Aces with the lead. 7 runs on 8 hits for Evansville. 1 run on 5 hits for Indiana State. Matt Serafini now 3 for 14 in the tournament.
Come on, Mike.
3-0 the count to Serafini. Evansville also, we need to mention you. I'm sorry, the count is now 2 balls and a strike. But losing Wes Carroll, their shortstop, to an injury, it makes you fully appreciate what Evansville has been able to do in this tournament. They've been able to adjust, shift guys around. But when you get pitching and defense, you'll always have a chance. Which is what Jim Brownlee has had all season long. There's a strike.
He was the first to say yesterday, hey, we're not a very talented offensive team. We know where our strengths are. We have to get good pitching. We have to play good sound defense behind our guys. And if we can do that and get some hitting in the upper half of the lineup, we're going to have a chance. And so far, that's exactly what they've done.
And they get a hit here. 9th base hit of the team. The first one for Matt Serafini. It comes with 2 outs in the bottom half of the 6th and a 7-1 Evansville lead. And it gives Joe Noel a chance to come to the plate. This team, Evansville, as you look at Scott trying to get out of the 6th. Jim Brownlee's team has only hit 38 home runs all season long. And let's put this in perspective. Pat Magnus of Wichita State has 17 himself. So this is not a team that's going to come out there and club you to death. They're going to pick away at you, although Noel has a home run in this game, fouls one off his foot. Noel's been honored 3 times, 2-run homer and 2 walks, scored 2 runs.
I think Evansville's offensive prowess kind of typifies the downward trend in offense in college baseball with the change of the bats a couple of years ago. 283 in previous years would have been an average that a team in the lower part of the league, of any league, would have had. But with team averages commonly above 300 and in some cases approaching 310 or 320. But the change in the bat a couple of years ago has helped to change things around a little bit. And now a 283 average, as we can see, is worthy of a championship type team.
Noel strikes out looking as Evansville leaves 1 on with 1 hit in the 6th, but they lead it 7-1. Car rental key stat of the game. Jim Brownlee needed a performance out of Wes Davis. Scott Shoemaker, it's what he's getting.
He's done exactly that. 1 run, 5 hits through the first 6 innings. He's thrown 96 pitches. With the 7-1 lead, Evansville can now look just a little bit ahead towards tonight's game. They need to hang on to this lead, obviously, but they can budget Davis's pitch count a little bit more than maybe they had the luxury of doing earlier in the game. As long as he can avoid serious trouble, he's probably going to be out there until the end of the game.
Ben Van Adder up for Indiana State. Sycamores have had their chances. They left the bases loaded in the 2nd. Left 2 on in the third and actually had the lead in this game on a leadoff home run by Clint Barmas, the Missouri Valley Conference Newcomer of the Year. Since then, it's been a Purple Aces playing with a double deck, hitting 7-1. Banander just one hit in the tournament. 2 balls and a strike. The count with Wes Davis, the right-hander. It's given Jim Brownlee a real good performance here in the semifinals. Just blows it past Banander. Davis has shown some velocity here on a couple of pitches. Scott, he's just thrown it by a couple of these guys.
It's difficult to tell whether Indiana State is up there guessing or whether they really just don't have an idea what's coming, but they have mistimed many pitches today.
Broshears takes the lazy fly off the bat. Ben Van Adder. Now, what about the other side of the dugout, the other pitching? This is Mike Scott. We mentioned his longest outing of the year. It's been a painful day for Scott.
Mike Scott entering the dugout after the top or after the bottom of the 6th inning in obvious pain. You don't often see a guy jumping up and down because he's in pain, but he's thrown now. He's approaching 90 pitches in his work today, and that obviously is much further than he's gone at any time in his season so far. So we've seen the last of Mike Scott. He did a very good job. He was very effective, but you can only go so far.
And a kid who's really had to reprogram his entire computer today because he's used to throwing an inning. He'll go out and throw an inning and a third, finish the game, get the save. But that arm has been overworked today and going out just trying to give his team a chance to stay in the game. Clint Barmas, who's had just a fantastic season, goes the other way and chinks one into right field in front of the right fielder and hustles into second base with a double. What a player Clint Barmas has been this season for Indiana State. A 30-game hitting streak. You talked about it earlier, Scott. That's the third longest in Division I this season.
Get something going, baby!
Has reached base in 58 of the 60 games this year for Indiana State.
He's a battler. He didn't have a great swing on that pitch, but he was down in the count. He fought it off and was able to dump it into right field. He gets on base and he takes advantage of the miscue out in right field to get to second base. But he's obviously a great talent for Indiana State. You got to believe more than likely that he won't be back next year. He's projected to be a high draft choice, and he probably won't pass up the chance for the money. But he's had a great season, and he was the newcomer of the year. And in some coaches' minds, he was the player of the year. We talked to at least 2 coaches yesterday who voted him as the league's player of the year.
A single and an error. But the right fielder, Broshears, stationed perfectly on the liner to from Dustin James. And having to stay put at second base is Clint Barmas. So now there's a runner at second base and 2 outs in the 7th for J.C. Baker. It's 7-1 Evansville. And we're in the top half of the 7th inning. Blake Blasey, the Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year this season. It was interesting in the strategy used by Gene Stevenson because he thought that both Coy Hill and Blasey deserving the award, Hill the Shocker third baseman and Blasey the second baseman. He decided to make his push for Blasey, but there had to be a split vote. We don't know how the vote came out because the people we've talked to, Clint Barmas has received a lot of his attention, as you mentioned, and deservedly so. They take nothing away from the year Blake Blasey's had, hitting around 400.
As well as Davis has thrown today, he's received quite a bit of help from Indiana State. There is a 1-0 count. Baker obviously looking for a pitch to hit in this situation. They're down 6. They need to continue this rally. And it's a breaking pitch in the dirt, and he swings way over the top, way out in front. So Davis has thrown well. He's contributed to that problem for Indiana State, but Indiana State has been its own worst enemy in many cases.
It passed up on some golden opportunities. Baker 1 for 3. Had a single in the 3rd inning. Swings and misses, and Indiana State gets cut down in the 7th. We go to the bottom of the 7th inning in Evansville. Starting to get warmed up for a championship game tonight against Wichita State. They lead by 6. We go to the bottom of the 7th. Evansville leads at 7-1. And Indiana State now with the injury to Mike Scott, forced to go to the bullpen. Kyle Hancock, his 15th appearance of the year, has not been involved in a decision. And an ERA of 6.3. And we'll try to keep Evansville within eye shot here of the Sycamores. Bottom half of the 7th, 7-1. First pitch swinging is Wegman, and it is gone. Home run. Brian Wegman wastes no time in welcoming Hancock to the game by drilling one into deep center field, and Evansville has an 8-1 lead.
Mike Scott gave it all he had. He went 85 pitches in 5 1/3 innings, 2 innings longer than his previous long outing for the year. But Indiana State comes in with Kyle Hancock, and Wegman swinging at the first pitch. A fastball up in the zone just a little bit. Wegman hits it well, but it doesn't appear as though it's going to leave the yard. But the little breeze helps it and helps it. And Egley runs out of room.
Right into the potato salad out there on the picnic table. And again, this is a relatively short ballpark to center. Now it's wide down the lines, but 390 to center makes it a hitter's park. I guess there's no potato salad on that table, but if there was, it'd be gone now. Brett Moats up there, 3 RBI days, doubled, he's tripled, he's grounded out. Hancock, a senior for Bob Warren's team out of Paris, Illinois. Played at Lakeland Community College. Flair, short right, tough play. 3 players converge, and an outstanding play by the first baseman, Ryan Firebend, to take it over the shoulder. On the pop-up by Moats.
Absolutely an excellent play by Firebend. Toughest play that any position player can make. Looking back over his head, running away from the plate in the infield area, makes the grab. Looking also to avoid contact with the second baseman and the right fielder at the same time. Just an excellent play.
First baseman Firebend with the play. Molina up there now for Evansville. Takes ball 2 from Hancock. Molina hitting .242 now for the season. Today's grounded out, struck out, flew out to left field his last time up. This time he smokes one to right field, and it is going to be off the wall. And Anthony Molina finally gets a hit in the tournament, a stand-up double to right field. And yes, this is the same Anthony Molina that was involved in that unfortunate circumstance in this ballpark last spring.
You mentioned his first hit, 0 for 13 in the tournament prior to that swing, but you know he's got a big feeling of relief out at second base, and we're not here to root for anybody, but you also have to feel pretty good for Anthony Molina picking up his first hit finally in this tournament in what is his senior year, and as he approaches the end of his college career.
Vince Serafini up there now for Evansville. He's K'd 3 times. Runner at second, 1 out. Already 1 home here in the 7th inning for Evansville. They lead 8-1. As Brian Wegman led off the inning with a solo home run. And Serafini drops one in right field. They're going to hold up Molina at third. The bottom of the order now. Going to work for Evansville. They have runners at the corners with 1 out, and back to the top of the order and Ryan Connors. A double by Molina and a single by Serafini, who both of those players prior to those at-bats have been hitless in the tournament. And now back to the dangerous Ryan Connors.
Jim Brownlee has to feel good about those 2 bottom guys in his lineup coming up with base hits in this inning. Evansville holding a comfortable 7-run lead, but at the same time, Brownlee has been after his team throughout the game to not let up, and they're continuing to try and put runs on the board here.
Liner to Dustin James in right field, but it'll go as a sac fly as Anthony Molina tags and scores easily. An RBI for Connors, his first of the game. But Evansville has played it twice here in the 7th, and they lead 9-1.
Now the first rule for a runner on third base with less than 2 outs when the ball's in the air is to make sure the ball gets down to the ground before you leave. The right fielder, James, makes the play easily, but Molina is on the bag and tags and scores Evansville's 9th run.
Doug Schoencase, 1 for 4. Doubled and scored in the first inning. Been a good run producer this year for Evansville. 44 RBI, 9-1, and just this thing couldn't have been typed out any more perfectly for Jim Brownlee than this situation right here. 9 runs on 12 hits. They have committed an error. Didn't really hurt them. 1 run on 6 hits for Indiana State. But what this does is set up Evansville for a chance to really compete with Wichita State tonight to win the tournament.
They have to feel very good. They're in a very comfortable situation. They've got the guy who many people would consider to be their ace, Ryan Miller, coming back from a start Wednesday in which he went just 4 innings in Evansville's loss in the opening round. He went 90 pitches or so he may not be at full strength. But behind him is Willie Glenn, leading the league with 13 saves, and he has yet to throw in this tournament since Wednesday as well. So with those 2 guys ready to go, and assuming that neither of those has to come back or has to appear in this game, Evansville's sitting pretty good.
Well, when you look at Ryan Miller, his numbers have been fabulous. He struck out 11 guys on average for 9 innings, the Valley Pitcher of the Year. This one's well struck. Stay in the ballpark. It's a long fly out to Chad Zouch in deep left. Evansville is gone in the 7th, but the Aces keep the pressure on. They scored twice. And at the end of 7, Evansville cruising, leading 9-1. 9